How are you coping?
This is an incredibly difficult time for our family. There's nothing we want to happen more than to get Alsu back. My children need her. I need my wife back. We're incredibly thankful for all the support that we've received from all over the world. Alsu is an American citizen, and Russian authorities have yet to grant consular access to her. That hasn't happened yet. We want this to happen as soon as possible. As an American, as a human being, Alsu has certain inalienable rights, and these rights must be upheld.
What can the US government do to help you?
Well, we're already very grateful for the support that we are receiving, but what we need to happen is for Alsu to be designated as a wrongfully detained person. This is a very important designation that comes from the United States government and from the State Department. Otherwise, we also very much appreciate the public support that we are receiving. We've seen the very strong statements coming out of the UN Human Rights Commission, from Amnesty International. There recently was a very strong editorial by the Washington Post calling for Alsu's release. But what I would like to see more of is more diplomatic pressure from other countries, particularly from Turkey. Because of Alsu's Turkic origins. She is Tatar, who was born in Kazakhstan, and from Islamic countries, taking into account Alsu's Muslim identity.
Tell me how this situation started.
Alsu had to attend to a family emergency in the middle of May this year. So she arrived in Kazan in Tatarstan on the 20th of May, and her visit was coming to an end, and before she was scheduled to board the plane, literally 15 minutes before that, she was called up by security, and they confiscated her American passport, her Russian passport. She happens to be a citizen of both the United States and Russia. They seized her telephone and gained access to all her personal communication, to chats in the most unceremonious way. Then, consequently, she was accused of not reporting her American citizenship to the Russian authorities, and now it is a criminal offense in Russia. The authorities dragged this ridiculous case out for 5 months before issuing a small fine. And so when this case was coming to a close and she was waiting for her passports to be returned to her, masked men came knocking on her door and took her away, and she has been in detention since. Alsu is a political prisoner. She is in jail because she is a journalist and she is an American. She must be released as soon as possible. Alsu is now accused of not registering as a foreign agent under some aggravating circumstances, supposedly because she was gathering information. But isn't that the very nature of journalistic work?
Can you tell me a little bit more about Alsu's journalistic work?
For a quarter of a century, she's been a broadcaster, a radio broadcaster, and a journalist, and then an editor at the tatarsko-baškirski service here at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. She has a very distinct, inimitable radio voice. You know, one of the voices that Tatars in Kazan, all over Tatarstan, and throughout the world, really, heard on their radio receivers, in their cars and their kitchens when Radio Azatlik was available on FM and medium waves inside Russia. She is a very respected member of the Tatar community. She dedicated much of her reporting to the preservation of the Tatar language and culture. In recent years, she actively participated in an online Tatar language education project called Ayda Online, It's a project that is widely recognized in Tatarstan by Tatarstan's authorities. It gained huge popularity, not just inside Russia, but also throughout the Tatar diaspora around the world.
And she's also involved in cultural activities relating to Tatar language and heritage here in Prague.
Oh, absolutely. Alsu is one of the top organizers and certainly a very active participant in a Tatar summer festival called Sabantui. That's an annual event. It's a national holiday, really, for Tatars around the world. Hundreds of people join Sabantui every summer, and those guests also included representatives of the Tatarstan government, the government that is now holding Alsu in prison on Moscow's orders.
Let's return to your family. How are your daughters coping?
We are a strong family. It is certainly very stressful. I will say that we are overwhelmed by all the support and offers of help. We very much appreciate that. My children are now focused on their education. They are receiving the support that they need from their school, from their teachers, from fellow students. I will say that we're raising our children as free people. It is for an American child who is being raised in the spirit of personal freedom, with freedom of choice, with a very strong sense of the primacy of human rights and individual rights, free speech and free expression. It is so hard to fathom that their mother was thrown in a cold prison cell because of something that she either said on the air or published as a journalist. It is just nonsensical for our children. But we are staying strong, and we do appreciate all the support that we've received. For my part, I continue my work as the director of Current Time TV, which brings uncensored news and information to Russian speakers around the world. We are undaunted and in our work, despite the circumstances. But we want Alsu back. Our daughters want their mother back, and I want my wife back. She must be released as soon as possible.